Yeah, we are live.
All right.
Awesome. Um, I I can kick it off again, or have Fabio kick it off. He's driving, but I really
I can kick it off again, or have Fabio kick it off. He's driving, but really.
So I'm really excited, to be with all of you here. We're all really excited to have a great discussion and another office hours, and how today's structure is going to work is similar to our last episode. Is we're going to each talk about for a couple minutes about what we've been working on this week, kind of day in the life of a real data scientist. And then we want to answer your questions. We want to spend a lot of time answering your questions, and you can comment directly in the chat. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to kind of what we're going to do today?
Yeah, I think that you can just ask questions. Maybe better in the end, because if you start adding questions right now, it will be hard for us to just go back and see all the questions. So maybe just wait for maybe half, or when we say just ask questions, and just get started, please.
Yes, absolutely. So I think we kind of go in alphabetical order. So Andreas, that means you always start us off. Kind of
Yeah.
start
the least data scientist is going to start. What I've been doing this week, I'm doing a lot of engineering work again. I've been working on a lot of Spark scripts, and a lot with Spark streaming, mainly streaming data from Kafka into Spark, and then doing some analytics work, and then either streaming it back into a Kafka topic, so you can chain multiple Spark jobs together, or then uploading it to a big data system and into HBase. So I'm in a Hadoop environment. This was mainly the main topic of this week. I'm starting to get a hang of it. Spark is absolutely awesome. I mean, when you think about when the option of distributed processing and analytics you have with Spark is crazy compared to older stuff like MapReduce, where you only could do so much. Yeah, that was the main topic of this week. And so if someone has a question about that, can get into
that. That's awesome. We have a couple people that are big Spark fans here on the panel, but that's really cool. You and Fabio might win me over to make the switch. So
it's really easy to use, because you can code in Scala and Python. You can even do Java, raw Java, but Java is not optimal for that.
That's awesome. Only heard great things. Okay, so I'll go next. I started a new job last week. I'm really excited. It's helping build a data science team from the ground up. And usually what that means, kind of at the start of any project, is that before you can dive into really cool modeling techniques, is you have to make sure your data is ready for that. And especially, at my company, we're just they just hired 2 data scientists and a data engineer, and just kind of starting from scratch. And so there's a lot of work to do to get our data sets ready, and the processing kind of productionalized, while we're exploring, what different models we can use. And, so I spent a lot of this week working on integrating data sets, and there's actually an enjoyable change of pace from what I've been doing the past couple of weeks. I think if that's all that I did, that would be really tedious. But the one thing I love about data science is there's, it seems like the day-to-day often changes. And as you're working through different parts of a project, you get to always do different things. And I'm doing a lot of the data manipulation with the tidyverse dplayer package, and it makes data manipulation so fun. And so that's kind of what my week has been like. I think Eric's next.
All right. I was trying to figure out alphabetical order. All right. What am I doing? So I'm going to jump on the Spark bandwagon, actually. If there's a message that you guys want to take away, it's that a lot of companies and places are moving towards Spark. We've started to use a lot more Spark at LinkedIn to try to, of course, decrease our processing time. Development of metrics, tracking of metrics becomes a lot more efficient over time. And so I certainly encourage anyone watching and thinking about where things are going. Spark is a big deal. It's something important to consider to have in your tool set in addition to everything else. Another big thing from the week was that really scary feeling after I spent the end of Q4 or the end of the quarter building a model. And this was the first time I initially did a readout on how that model was performing in the real world. It's a very scary time where you're like, if this really isn't performing well, man. But it's a really good feeling to see that something you developed is taking care of the business use case that you intended it to, that it's doing the right thing, that it can affect the business. So those have been big priorities for me this week. One is evaluating the ongoing health of the models that we build, and also in a lot of ways leveling up my own technical skills, particularly with Spark.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think Fabio's next. Yeah.
That's true story. So first of all, thank all of you for being here. We're all really excited about this. So we hope you all join us. Forever. So, okay. What I've been doing this week is actually working with Spark and in time series. This is something that's not that easy because we're really, we're used to work with R and TS or with Pandas and Python, but in Spark's not that easy. There's been some libraries like Flint that I don't know who created it, but it's a really good library. And I've been trying to use it. I've been trying to get the people in my company to accept the library, because when you have a new library, you have to convince the engineers that they have to install the library in the cluster. So I've been doing some proof of concepts with the library, and because we're in a bank and we have a lot of data from our customers that is transactional. It's like, hey, how are they changing their their income or their output, or how they are doing business or anything. And this is a process that fits really well in a time series, but we have a lot of data, so it's not easy to do it with only pandas or Python. The other thing I've been doing a lot, these past few weeks, is studying deep learning. I've been really trying to jump in the area for last 2 months, and I've been sharing my knowledge and my process. I think if you follow me, you could see I think I had 2 articles right now on towards data science and KD nuggets for where where how did I get started, where do I come from, and how to study. I think there's a lot of good resources out there, and we have the pleasure of having here Tari, that he's working with a team with Andrew and G and deep learning AI, and I think the best course out there for deep learning is the Andrew and G course right now. I think I said it before, and yeah, that's most of my week has been just studying both papers and the MOOCs of deep learning.
Awesome. Thank you, Fabio. I think Sarah's up.
Cool. So, hi everyone. So, like I think to Bo's point, kind of in a data science kind of job, your week to week is going to vary depending on what projects you're working on. And so, last week I was doing a lot more optimization. This week I'm doing a lot more automation. So, on the automation, from the automation standpoint, things might not seem as interesting, but you know, when you start to discover new libraries, how you can kind of go about automating something in not only like in the most efficient way, but also maybe a creative way, it really challenges you. So what we've been doing is kind of translating information that otherwise would live in a database and not be available to anyone, kind of outputting that in a way where, you know, people who don't know how to code can actually read it. So transferring it to an Excel spreadsheet. So we've been using a library called XLSX Writer, which is pretty cool. You can just translate right off of Python, just create a script to output directly to Excel. So that was really cool. And then, but also part of data science is truth telling and storytelling, right? So the storytelling aspect of it is the other thing that I've been working on this week, which is basically translating the data into a visualization that is meaningful, that people can just look at it and directly understand what's going on. And so taking, like, for example, I work in advertising, so we're taking like Facebook segments and audience segments and plotting them in a way using Matplotlib. Matplotlib and Seaborn are such like, they're such powerful visualization packages. Like when you look at the most basic plot that you can make in Matplotlib and then look at all the other things that you can do to it, like it's fascinating. So I got fascinated in the plots that I was making, and that becomes a very important part of kind of translating what you're doing into something that the clients can understand or that people internally can understand. So that's been my week.
Awesome, thank you, Sarah. That's great. Okay, Terry, you've been hopping all over the world, or at least Europe. I'd love to hear what you've been up to this week.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, and so awesome to really see you guys here. I cannot see the feed of the people, but really, it's you guys who are making this thing successful, and I'm sure there are a lot of people in the machine learning and deep learning community. There seems to be a distinction, so you need to kind of have that distinction as well. Really are doing a whole lot of beautiful things, and it's an honor for me to be part of this group and share a couple of important things with you. So for me, my week, just kind of doing the routine is I've been wrapping up things that I've been doing in Berlin last week. 2 weeks ago, I guess it's 2 weeks ago now. I gave a workshop on capsules. We're working on writing, manifold learning theories, trying to put those theories into capsule. So that's really interesting, and it's I've reached out to Jeffrey Hinton and his team as well in Toronto, and it's probably we're going to be working together. What else? Hey, there's a dog. Whoa.
Yes, she wants to join me, so we'll.
Awesome. And what else? So I guess the beautiful news is for a lot of people out there, and millions of people. And I hope in with LinkedIn we have like 550 million people. And yesterday I said on Eric's post that even if you get a subsegment of like 1 or 2% of people by the end of this year to get into machine or deep learning is awesome. And I think we're going to build this community. I really am excited about it. So I don't know how to really summarize, because there's a whole lot of things I did in last week, and this week I'm writing my book. I'm preparing for a workshop in which all the questions of deep learning and machine learning are asked by people who've been in this industry for like 10, 20 years. So teaching doctoral and postdoctoral people on deep learning, even questions of multidimensional time series, how to use them in recurrent neural network. And this week has been really busy. We just launched yesterday the fifth course of recurrent neural network on Coursera. So kind of understanding how that works, and also kind of helping the community. And the beautiful thing is, this is not me making a pitch for Coursera or whatever. I think the most beautiful thing for you guys, everybody, for myself as well, is to answer questions and even ask questions. And you see there's a whole lot of things people ask, like what Sarah just mentioned on manipulating data, moving, from using that unstructured data, putting into Excel and trying to import it into, using some EDL into some databases. So do that and, try to get into that. And what else I have this week is working on the research report and planning for another bioinformatics workshop that I have next week in Germany, again in Berlin. And this is like a specific workshop with NVIDIA is kind of helping us get their GPUs power to the workshop attendees. So I'll be giving a workshop on skin cancer detection or something else with CNNs. So it's really awesome. I mean, the most important thing is the inspiration and the beauty that we're beginning to see. It almost seems as if, we have discussions in Coursera as mentors as well. It really does feel to me, I don't know how it feels to a few people, really as if I'm living in the 1880s, when people were kind of discovering electricity. People didn't know what to do with it, and we were just working and running away with our own model, being excited. And at some point in time, there's going to be convergence of all these models, right? You have reinforcement learning, recurrent neural networks, GANs, etc. They will be standardized, and I think the whole our responsibility. I feel that, and I see Bo, Andreas, Fabio, Eric, and Sarah feel that too. Is our responsibility is to get you guys on board as soon as possible, and I'll answer the questions. I see the questions coming up. I'll answer the questions in a few minutes and try to see how you guys want to organize it. So my week has been really busy, and to me, I wish I had like 2 weeks in a week. I could do more. It has never made me feel so excited. Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there were new technologies coming up, and I was working in them. And I know that the next 5 years or 10 years, I have so much to do. Building up my DeepCafa.ai, also a little startup in which I'm getting a lot of researchers, docs and postdoc and all kind of people. You don't have to be a postdoctoral or PhD. I don't care. You can be anybody. You can be a high school kid who wants to work on a research. You can come and work with me. It's an accredited company where I can give you, a certificate. You can, promote your work. You can put your research in conferences. I'm a program member also of ACM, so working on the workshop in Sweden. So a whole lot of stuff. But I don't want to steal or eat up on your time. I'm thankful. I'm very grateful that you let me sort of, help you learn, and you help me teach as well, and I learn as well. So I hope to be part of this group and try to help you guys. And one last thing, obviously, in Iraq, we're going to be in Iraq in March. It's confirmed. So there's going to be working with women from Iraq and Kurdistan, Syria. It's so amazing. And Tunisia workshop we're planning as well. So I have a call today with a bunch of really smart people. So yeah, I have a whole lot of things to tell you. I will tell you, and I hope you guys keep working with us. And it's an honor to have you give us this opportunity to help you guys. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Terry. You've been doing an awful lot. It's really fun to watch. So for the rest of the office hours, we're going to answer your questions. And I might turn the time over to Fabio to kind of direct us through that. He has, maybe he can pick out questions that you can kind of guide our process that way.
Yeah, so I think the first question is actually for you, Bob. And there's people talking about your selection process, and maybe it could be like a good thing for you to talk about how was it, and how were the interview process or the application process. I think a lot of people are trying to get in the field, so I think it's gonna be fun for them to hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I have some thoughts about that and share a little bit about that. I don't want to take too much time, but I'm actually have a half drafted LinkedIn post that's on this topic. So maybe post tomorrow or something. But I was looking, I know Eric isn't to thank for this, but LinkedIn shows me how many jobs I've applied to over the past like 10 years since I've been on the platform. And I think it's like 898 or something like that. And the amount of jobs that I've actually got from applying to, that's only jobs on LinkedIn, and I've applied through other apps, and I've applied directly on sites like over the course of my career. I haven't ever received a job through that. On LinkedIn alone, my success rate is 0 out of 898. And that may be, I mean, most of those I thought I was qualified for that I could do. That may or may not have been the case. And a lot of times when people look at my background and they see JD, they immediately assume, okay, this guy's not a data scientist. But every job that I've had has come through an alternative channel. And so my advice is do those channels that everyone else does, but also consider other channels as well. Networking is huge. Having a connection or a friend or someone in the company, that will open doors in a way that applying, kind of blind applying, will not. So that's kind of my first piece of advice. And this last time, I was really lucky that I was technically only out of a job for a week, which was really neat. And I luckily found, in terms of consideration, I was looking for, I've been doing this long enough that I know what type of things that I really enjoy, and what type of things I don't, and what type of environment. And it's kind of was just a combination of what would be best for my family, what would be best for me, and something that I'm really excited about. I've been in a profession where it was not exciting to go to work every day, and I'm glad to be back in data science for that. And so in terms of interviews, I think there's a lot that you can do to prep for interviews, and you can stress a lot about that. And it's important to know basic things, but the biggest thing is to be yourself. I think that you can prep a lot for an interview, but then then you show up the first day of work, and if you just were prepared for the interview and then who you are is not who they thought that you were in the interview, then that's going to be a miserable thing as well. But if you have a passion for machine learning and for data science, that will show through. That'll show in what you spend your time doing. I think one thing that helped me switching out of legal profession back to data science, and it still helps me, is that I do data science for fun. That's what my definition is, fun. So even if I'm not doing it for a job, I'm doing projects that are data science, and that really goes a long way. So I don't want to take up any more time, but that's a little bit about some advice that I have.
I'll just add one thing. I don't know. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, because I'm just trying to grab the comments. So I believe Fabio is synthesizing that. So the most important thing, guys, is really don't worry too much about all these. So there's this question on PhD. No, you don't really need a PhD, believe me. And two, I think the other advice that I would want to give you is don't try to just hit on the data science job. You could get a job as a software developer. You could get a job as, I have no idea, program manager to do some boring project where you go and hit the opportunity, because your skills are not going away. Don't worry about it. Just take the job in which probably you are assistant project manager, where you have to type in do just some PowerPoint work. Don't worry about it. Once you have your foot in the door, then you come in and then you say, hey, listen, something, I work with Scala, Kafka, I have database background, I can do manipulation. People say, hey, wait a minute, come over. And this is how you create your own job. This is how it works. And I know it's hard. And the opportunities on LinkedIn and people, so it's a different world. People are creating job profiles that don't exist. People expect you to have 10 years of artificial intelligence experience. And I said, well, I have like 4 years of experience and I could tell you a whole lot of things, but it seems like 4 years is like 40 years. So those kind of job listings are probably not even realistic. So don't worry too much about it. I've been in this industry long enough to understand that, back in the days when late 90s, beginning 2000, when internet was coming up, people had learned economy, philosophy, all kinds of stuff. And they were getting a jobs in IT, because back then technology and IT was coming up. And similarly, today with artificial intelligence, it's going to expand really dramatically. Think from your industry perspective. If you're from healthcare background, if you're from logistics background, transportation, you have a bunch of ideas. Combine these, mix all those ideas, and go to your, the local kind of, networking community. Talk about it, and you just get a job. Get a job is better than being out of job. I know it's very hard, so it's difficult, but don't hit on and don't get discouraged either. Just keep working. Don't worry, and get into a job. You're going to be okay. I'm answering this really very, I think it's very important. People ask me every day, hundreds of people. I get on video sessions with them to just comfort them because people want to give up. And to me, it really hurts because don't give up. It's okay. I know it's hard. If you're young, you can always move back to your parents. Don't worry too much about it. These are realistic. It's a really hard world, I know.
Yeah.
But we are here to help you, and I'm trying to get people as well into jobs, whatever that I can. But don't give up. And PhD is not really necessary. Don't worry about it.
I think this is great advice, Terry, and people. That to get people just into the job and into a job, not exactly the data science job, because what I feel is the cool thing nowadays is you can learn this off the job. You can do machine learning off the job. You can do it on your free time and get into it, and then you have the foot in the door, and you can say, I have this experience, and look for another thing, even in that company you are already, or in another company. And
absolutely,
this democratization of knowledge is right now is really great.
Yeah, something I want to add to that. I tend to be skeptical of the jobs I see that say you must have a PhD. What that tells me is generally that they don't, unless it's a very, very specific market, they don't necessarily know what they're looking for if they say you have to have a PhD, especially in this field right now. I think it's something. I just want to echo what they've had to say. Like being at LinkedIn, we get to look at data that shows how people find jobs over time, how their networks kind of define their paths through different jobs. Meet people, try to network with them. It's kind of amazing how people there are people I met 5 years ago that now are just kind of shaping the path that I'm going on for work. And it's persistence. I think we've all written about it at different points in time, but it's that mindset that you're going to keep grinding until you get there matters a ton, especially in a highly technical field and one that's changing as much as this one is.
Yeah. So my question, there's a question. So why are you doing a PhD, Terry? Well, I'm doing it because I have a dream I'm doing it in robotics as well. So my dream is to really put a robot on Mars or something else, and probably develop some technology to I'm working on a whole lot of robotic algorithms, things I haven't started talking about either. So I'm doing it for passion, really. I'm not doing it to get a job. PhD is because, with PhD, what happens is you can work on a discipline and you can just focus on that discipline. And it's super exciting. If I can afford to do it, I have time. I'm at a point in my career, in my life, where I think I can do it and still support my family with the projects that I'm doing. So it's about a combination of time and something which I really wanted to do for a really long time. So it's my passion and a desire. It's nothing. I don't need a stamp on my CV anymore. I've been an entrepreneur. I've raised 2 companies. I've raised capital in Silicon Valley. I've done some really exciting work. So to me, it's just pure passion.
All right. I think, we now have like 25 questions, so it won't be easy to pick one. But I think one important question was this one. Do we need the whole basket of skills required for a data scientist job? So we need to know all of them. I think that's a good question. If someone can jump in.
Well, what I was going to say is that a data science team is going to kind of have people from different backgrounds who have different skill sets. And so when you're talking about everything that you could possibly learn, I don't think it's possible that everyone's going to have that. It's either that you're going to have know a little bit about a lot of things, or know a lot about something specific. And so depending on how small or how mature your data science team is, you might need a lot of generalists who can just churn out models and start using the data and coming up with strategy, helping make strategy decisions and predictions. And so those anyone can do, right? So scikit-learn is available, TensorFlow, like they're very easy. Linear regression can go so far, and really impact a lot of industries. And then at some point, your data science team will get large enough where you'll start wanting people who are specialists in things. And so you're going to want someone who knows a lot about one particular thing. And so really, the way that you're going to be able to leverage everyone's different backgrounds. I can say for my team, I think we have one PhD in physics, one PhD in atmospheric sciences, one that came from fintech, one that was studied mathematics. I came from a mechanical engineering, and so everyone's going to have different perspectives and a different skill set to bring to the table, and so you can leverage everyone's different backgrounds.
Awesome.
Just to add to that, I think I think it's good advice to first become really good at what you're passionate about, and if it's like me, I have a lot of different things that I'm interested in, and I'm definitely more of a generalist than a specific expert, and in most of the roles that I've had, that's been a really good thing. It's really useful that for example, I've spent time with web scraping and natural language processing, and also building out models. And I'm not an expert in any one domain of those domains, but when you're in a smaller company or on a smaller data science team, you have to touch all parts of it. And that's one thing that I like about being in a smaller company. I think if you're in a larger company, if you have a really, just echo what Sarah said, if you have a really good specialty, it pays to be an expert in that one thing. So
great. So I guess I'll just help you if to speed up Fabio. I think there's a whole lot of questions on Kafka. So there were like 4 or 5 questions. Maybe you can combine all of these together.
Yeah, I think the main question here with Kafka is if it is a standard across companies for streaming. I think Andreas can reply here.
Yeah, well, standard, no. But what I'm seeing is that a lot of companies are using it. So if you're looking at the bigger ones like Netflix or so, everybody's using Kafka. There are alternatives like RabbitMQ but the basic is you have this publish subscriber model where publishers are streaming data in and subscribers are listening all the time and getting the data. And for instance, you could do that with an in-memory database like Redis. Redis also has that capability. But everywhere I look, there's always a Kafka involved, and Kafka is it's very big in streaming right now. So it's not that hard to learn and get a hang of it. So don't worry too much about it, because for the data scientist, it's another data source where you get the data, but it's not that crazy.
Would you consider the Kafka knowledge more close to a data engineer than a data scientist?
Yeah, a bit. I think so. Yeah, but I mean, once you understand how the system works and that how you're getting your data. I mean, the APIs are very easy to use, and it's not really an issue for an engineer of course, you need to know how to set up the system, how to integrate this with other systems like Spark, or if you want to use it for to get data into HDFS, you could use other tools to in combination. But a lot of guys are using Kafka right now because it's that good and that well to be integrated with other systems.
I think that's an interesting question. So I guess it's a little bit unique to be at LinkedIn because they developed Kafka and then open sourced it. So I know that on the interview side, even for our engineers and our data engineers and our data scientists, like there's not questions that necessarily focus on, do you know how to use Kafka or not? It's more of a, like, they assume that if you're familiar with that type of architecture or that idea of something streaming, like that you'll be able to pick it up. I think there's different ways, like both in engineering, and data science. I still think that core of like, can you think logically? Can you also be creative? Do you understand like the general data structure and how it goes from being captured to processed? I don't necessarily know it's important that you know Kafka itself, but I see that reflected amongst a lot of our engineers at LinkedIn.
Awesome.
All right. So I think one of the other questions that I think this one is for Tari is how to get started with a deep learning framework like Tensorflow or Keras and these kind of things.
Yeah, very good question. So what I'm doing through DeepKafka is not deep learning, by the way, for a lot of people. DeepLearning.ai is Andrew's enterprise, or the startup in which he wants to move into enterprise as well as community. We don't have a TensorFlow training and like fully comprehensive TensorFlow training for several reasons. So I work with Google's TensorFlow team, a small core team. And they say, hey, it's you guys who have to develop these modules and take it to the market, which I think is fair, because there's a whole lot of development going on. As you all know, TensorFlow, you can go on GitHub, you can participate in the developer community, and you can also sort of, make your contributions there. That is the best way to learn TensorFlow. So, if you just go to GitHub, you see a whole lot of questionnaires, not just on GitHub, but you have to move to Stack Overflow to understand how the new libraries are being developing, the APIs coming into TensorFlow, for instance, Keras, etc. What I would suggest is to use TensorFlow as an implementation framework and then start learning convolution neural networks, which is image classifications, the stuff you do in which you're identifying objects, whether moving or images, and move into recurrent neural networks and using TensorFlow libraries there as well is the best way to get a deeper and better understanding. And I think it's a very good question. Again, from another perspective, is you will become an expert in TensorFlow once you start playing with TensorFlow as a framework. So what is happening now is people just pick up stuff on internet, which is fine, which is great. They take PyTorch or you'll start learning Torch. Someone is learning Julia. You get distracted. I got distracted as well a couple of years ago. So TensorFlow is really relatively new, right? It's like 2.5 years in the industry, moving really fast. So I think the best what you can do is use TensorFlow, install it, uninstall it, do the basic stuff, build it from source if you can. That's what I tell a whole lot of people. If you have a GPU, build it from source, understand how this thing is really built. And then start using that, especially with TensorFlow 1.5, you have a whole lot of things that you don't need when you're using 1.3. With eager execution, it starts getting, with performance perspective, closer to, more C++ kind of compiler level sort of execution, if it is Torch or something else. So I think it's getting easier. It was a bit complicated, the way it came from Theano. Ian Goodfellow has been kind of, one of these people who worked on TensorFlow to get this, framework working. It's more like a, big granddaddy of Theano in a way. So you can use TensorFlow at the back end, and you can do a whole lot of work with Keras. But understand that building your expertise in TensorFlow is a responsibility for yourself. I know there are not many things. I'm building some things as well. So I'm building the whole stack from RNN, CNN. RL, reinforcement learning, and then you have GANs and even capsules. We're working on developing APIs on capsules as well. So it's just you need to spend like insane amount of hours understanding it, and it's not hard if you just say, okay, for me the basic rule is I will use TensorFlow. It's going to be hard. I know I can do stuff faster and quicker in Keras. I know I get tempted to. So so get sort of, you need to get in. So the three things that's important is get onto GitHub and contribute there. Practice at home, or if you have a GPU instance on Google or Amazon Cloud, to see how things work with GPUs, and how do you sort of distribute workloads between CPU and GPU when you're developing TensorFlow. And the third is keep a little bit eye on the stuff that I will be releasing as well, because on Coursera we don't have sort of a TensorFlow training. So we move into Keras and do other things. So what I'm building is those 6 kind of modules and capsules: RL, RNN, CNN, GANs, and VAEs, variation or autoencoders, or variation autoencoders. So that is the way you have to kind of take these 3 steps, and I think you're within 6 months you should be okay.
That's great. I think that something else that you can just do is that a lot of people are sharing their knowledge on how are they learning, not only deep learning, but like R, Python, machine learning, and there's great amount of blogs and even videos on the internet with people just explaining simple things. And I think the best way of getting started, apart from all the things that Tari said, is like start from the basics. I mean, don't go and try to build a CNN with 100 hidden layers just because it is the best. Just go and build your own network, like a simple thing, or maybe just if you're in machine learning, just do a linear regression, evaluate your model, or maybe just I don't know, just go there and try to see if you understand the code that other people are doing. And if you copy the code to learn, just type the code. I think that's really important. Just not copy paste the code. You should go there and write line by line so you can understand what other people are doing. Because if you only copy and paste the code, I mean, you're not doing anything for yourself. So I think those are my suggestions.
Yeah, great advice. Yes.
And there are a lot of questions here about MOOCs or like proper school, universities. I don't know if someone can add. Like, is it better for someone right now to go there and do a master or do a PhD, or just invest your money and time into a MOOC?
I can answer, but I believe, I'm
going to jump in if that's okay.
Yeah.
We good? I posted about this the other day because I think probably all of us get lots of questions, like which courses should I start in? Which master's program should I join? Which boot camp should I do? I don't think there's a perfect answer necessarily, but I do think it's important to consider, like, what's your end goal, right? If you have the financial resources and the time, and you can take it away and you're able to spend some time at a university, I think it's a really valuable experience, not just for the education, but often for the career placement services that universities tend to have. They also tend to be good for building your network. You're able to not only network with people locally, but they tend to have a lot of connections to the local community, and a lot of professors at different business schools are really well connected when it comes to different industry places. As far as more self-driven learning, boot camps are kind of in the middle, right? They're intense, faster paced. I still think they're great because they keep you honest. They force you to work on a schedule. They're certainly more cost effective than a university is, but it's a lot more self-driven in terms of networking. And I posted about this the other day, and I was amazed to see the response about the number of people that are doing self-driven learning and courses. I think it's awesome. One thing that resonated with me in all of their comments was how much self-discipline is required if you're going to go that route, where you have to really keep yourself honest. You have to keep yourself focused, put yourself on a schedule, because it's really easy to say, I want to learn this, and then to just not finish a course or not keep pushing through. So just some things to think about from my own experience.
What I can add is very quickly, I think what's happening is if you are not applying to Stanford or to Washington University or NYU, where associations of Jan LeCun or for example, Andrew, he's really closely associated to Stanford, where they develop a whole lot of stuff there. They have semesters with, guys, if you're going to the NLP class or if you go into data science class, there are a bunch of people who are, close-knit community, then you might struggle indeed. And a lot of people, even in the Netherlands, they reach out to me that, okay, there are a bunch of universities. So what do I need to do? Which university do I need to follow? Because not every university has a curriculum that is good enough. And unfortunately, that is true. I have sort of worked and taught at a university in the north of Holland, one of the best universities in the world. I think, Andreas, maybe you would know it, Groningen, University of Groningen, been producing, amazing sort of Nobel Prize winners, etc. But, it's kind of, in the Netherlands, you have like 2-3 universities, the University of Utrecht, University of Amsterdam. They have very deep connects with Montreal and Toronto. So a couple of people I know, for instance, Dirk Kingma, who wrote Atom Optimizer and is working for Elon Musk right now. So if you are not into that closed network, which is very easy to get into, but you need to work kind of, way to get into that network, then you might say, oh, gee, I'm smart, but I cannot get in. So I would say is do this, just build your profile online, like Eric said. Have dedication and put your time in. Don't worry about it. Sometimes, some days are hard, some days are not hard. Keep working on it, keep building on your expertise, and you will be there. You will reach there. You will reach recognition. You will find someone who's going to reach out to you. It happens in really magical ways. There is no sort of, silver bullet. It happens magically where you reached and people reach out to you and say, hey, listen, we saw your work, we saw you presenting. And so, work on your profile, write some stuff, publish things. It's a combination of things. Universities are also desperately looking for people like you. You would realize that probably they need you more than you need them. So keep a sort of a MOOC plus a university kind of a learning program for yourself. Don't worry too much about it, because with a computer and a laptop and internet, you're already getting started. So really, just kind of keep on moving, and you're going to be fine.
Cool.
Yeah, that's also something that I've seen, is that a lot of guys are very impatient, and this happens to me as well. And just yesterday I thought about that. Well, I'm 35, so I have at least 40 years ahead of me where I can dive into the topic. So what's a year or two? Nothing, basically. So
yeah.
It doesn't make sense to be impatient. And if you don't finish that course right now, do it again in half a year, in a year. It doesn't really matter. You have the time.
Yeah. I think at a younger age, you're right, Andreas. If I was like 18 and 19, you think that's the only thing, that's your life. And it's very hard to not kind of think how it is, because when at college 6 months it feels like your life is lost or something. So that's why people get impatient. But I guess I'm a little bit older than you, and you realize that hey, learning is basically a lifetime process. So don't worry about it. I believe Bo had to kind of leave. So so we could just say goodbye to Bo. Thank you so much, Bo, for hanging out here.
I think.
Yeah. So I think we can answer a couple. Yeah, he had to leave. So I think we can just answer, I think, a couple more questions. I think one is weird but intrigues me. So I want to talk about that and hear you guys. What is the point a person can call oneself a data scientist?
I'm not a data scientist. I'm just some guy working on data.
Yeah, I think Eric should answer because he's a senior data scientist. So yeah, this is for you.
All right, Eric, this is for you, man.
Oh no. Oh, this is a tough one. I think there's multiple answers to this question. It's such a weird and hard question to answer because for some people, I mean, you can just look at how things have changed on LinkedIn and how people title themselves. You can go in and edit your title to be data scientist. Is that changing your title? I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it's for me, there's not an established threshold. We don't have a society that says you have to have these skills and you're certified to be a data scientist. And I think that's great. It's a fun part right now is that people are coming. It encourages people to come from all sorts of backgrounds. I think if you want to be in data science, like there are some standard skills, things like data manipulation, things like a solid understanding of statistics, things like being able to tell a story with data. Like those are certain skills that I look for, but it's not a like 0-1 classification thing. You don't suddenly wake up one day and be like, today I have become a data scientist. Like that doesn't, I don't think that happens. At least I mean, if it did, that would be really cool and be a lot easier and solve a lot of these arguments that people have. But I think if you're going to refer to yourself as a data scientist, try to look at the skills and the way that people around you and that you admire think about and solve problems. Look at how they communicate. Look at how they think about learning. And those are some of the characteristics that I look for. I don't think there's necessarily a skill set and says you've passed your 8th exam and you get to become a data scientist now. Like, it doesn't work like that. Maybe someday, but certainly not now.
I mean, I think we even hired someone as a data analyst, and I think he didn't like that, so he put his LinkedIn as data scientist. I was like, no, but okay. But yeah. I think maybe the fine line is between like analyst and data scientist. Is that where the blurred line is? Because I feel like maybe that's answered a little bit by kind of just having a little bit more solid software engineering skills. So like knowing how to code. So kind of, I think a baseline would be knowing a language like R or Python, knowing like Eric said, so a solid statistical foundation, being able to really like not only just look at the data and just spit it back out in an Excel, in a pivot table, but really being able to take that one step further to dictate strategy, right? So like, how can we not only just read the data and say, okay, this is cool, but like, how does that become like a prediction that influences strategy? How do you kind of take out the gut feelings that people make and actually say, okay, well, now this is a strategy that we're going to take, and we're going to do it because it's backed by data. So that's
awesome.
That's great. And okay, I think we should go to another question because there's a lot of them. And I think this one came like right now, but I think it's interesting is how long this boom of data science will be there? What is the scope of data scientists? And I'm just gonna start here and say, I mean, these names we put to job positions, they may not stay forever. But I think the things we're doing, they have a lot of future because technology is changing with us, and I think we are a part of a revolution that that will impact in every way that we live, from science, from to health, to how we study. And I think data science as a field, maybe we won't hear that in 20 years, but I think maybe we will remember the things we did. It's like, maybe, of course, yeah, you're not be considered a data scientist, but yeah, this guy did this stuff and they work in this area. So I think there's future here if you really want to go into a profession that is exciting and I mean fun. I think this can be a way for you to get started.
Awesome. So I think we're probably about an hour, Fabio. Sarah
Yep.
wants to jump off. Eric probably is already gone or not. Eric, yeah. So
Yeah.
for
That's
us,
the
it's
trouble.
morning, I guess, for myself and Andreas. I really want to thank you for this opportunity. And I guess you want to do it every week. And Sarah, Andreas, Eric, Bo, and yourself, Fabio. It's fun to really talk to you people. And thank you so much. And yes, data science field is not going away. Don't worry about it either. It's a huge industry that is being evolving and will evolve for the next 5 to 10 years. Don't give up. Keep learning. And as I say, happy deep learning.
I love
The
That's the tag I've been using in Berlin, and it's kind of become really popular in Berlin since last week.
Yeah, Terry, that's a good point. If you're right now working on that, you're ahead of a lot of other guys. So
Don't worry about it.
You're on the top.
Same recruiters who have no idea what you're doing are going to be coming and saying, "Hey, just take that job, sign that contract, just get started." Because eventually, what is happening is, if you look at company dynamics, the budgets are being rolling out. Within this year and next year, there'll be a whole lot of new jobs coming. Don't worry about it, people. Some people had to wait longer. Don't worry, you'll get jobs. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Awesome.
A quick question to Fabio. When you stop the meeting, does the chat go away or does that stay?
So this will be, and I mean, for all of you guys want to see this again, or for the people that couldn't be here right now, this will be recorded and will be in the channel. So after we finish this transmission, you can all go back and see what we said. So I think right now we should maybe say goodbye. And I hope you all of you had fun with us here. We plan on doing this in a weekly fashion, so we hope seeing you here every week. And yeah, as Tari said, I think don't give up, keep pushing. You'll get that job. I mean, this is not an easy field, and when you get it, please remember us when you are the CEO. Yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you guys.
Bye,
Thank you very much.
See you
Have a
next
good
week.
rest of your day, you guys. Bye.
Yes. Yeah. Have a good evening. Have a good morning, and take care. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Take care, Terry.